Time for another Soccer Down Here 1v1, and for this one we go to Jacksonville and catch up with one of the guys who's been a part of the fabric of the Jacksonville soccer scene for quite some time, whether you're talking on the university scale or the youth scale, and now he's hanging out on the USL scale of things. Mauricio Ruiz hanging out with us as the newest addition to the Jacksonville USL Championship group. Coach, thanks for hanging out with us for a 1v1.
Yeah, absolutely, John. Thank you for having me. We're really excited down here in Jacksonville to get things started. It's an unbelievable soccer market, and bringing the USL Championship and the Women's Super League as well in the future years will be something that our community will embrace, and hopefully we can deliver.
How did you get tapped on the shoulder by everybody who was already there to go, hey, dude, we'd like for you to be a part of this? How did this happen?
Yeah, so the relationship really started with our president and CEO, Steve Livingston. He was here, and he was part of the Jacksonville Armada in the NSL that came to Jacksonville in 2016-ish. And I was the head coach at Jacksonville University at that time, and there were conversations for the Armada to play at JU. They did it ultimately end up playing some U.S. Open Cup games there. And then obviously just with the pro team and the Division I program, we wanted to develop a good relationship on all fronts, whether it was a business relationship, player development relationship, and just opportunities for both of our programs. So I've known Steve since then, and then he approached me during that time as they were starting their broadcasting for me to be one of the color analysts on their broadcasting team. So I had the pleasure to do broadcasting for the Armada for the first really 3 years of the organization. That was a great experience. I really enjoyed just talking soccer like we always do. It was a bit of a challenge as well, just being on the other side of the game and kind of judging and criticizing, commenting on different aspects of it. So we just maintained a good level of conversation and relationship over time. And then when they approached, when they announced the USL Championship will be coming to Jacksonville, it was only natural that Steve and I would get in touch again, and we did. And at the end of the fall, I was looking to transition out of coaching a little bit, maybe transition out of college, and always had the interest to see what the professional environment will look like. Not really sure if coaching in the pros was ever something that I really wanted to do. I wanted to be in the pros in some capacity. So Steve and I spoke, and he kind of shared the project with me. I got really excited about what it looked like. And then the opportunity presented itself to join him in 23.
So what are you doing in the interim? It's an on the field, off the field kind of a thing. So what exactly are you doing as a part of one of these cogs in the Jacksonville USL machine?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. It's really a two-headed position for me here. Primarily, I think first and foremost, we're 2 years away from kicking a soccer ball as it speaks, so being on the field and competing in the league. So there's just a lot of business development criteria that we really need to get off the ground first and foremost. Make sure that our local partners, whether it's youth soccer local partners or just business local partners, understand the project and how all that is aligned. We're really focusing on trying to get some founding partners in place that we're pre-brand, we're pre-location, so a lot of excitement and anticipation in there. We're really just communicating that piece of what we're doing. So on the business side, just meeting and greeting with a lot of different folks that might be interested in what we're doing. My time at Jacksonville University, I had the opportunity to do that already by bringing in some sponsorships and alumni and fundraising opportunities. So pretty natural in that space. This is just at a bigger scale, which is also exciting for me. And then with that, just always having a technical conversation of what our club will look like from a youth development standpoint, and eventually that pyramid that ultimately leads to the USL Championship. So several of those technical conversations, we're a little too early to be too deep into those conversations. But as we do build the pillars of the organization from a business component standpoint, we'll be able to enter those conversations a lot more. So just making sure that people know that we're here, that I'm the point of reference for the time being as we work collectively together. And but that's an exciting piece to kind of see our product on the field at one point and making sure that the community is behind all of that.
What's it like for you in this situation? Because obviously you're a part of something that is coming from the ground up. What are those initial conversations like? I mean, I know a lot of folks in the soccer community there in North Florida and South Georgia and that whole area, the corridor, 25, 95, and 10, they know you, they know your pedigree. What are those initial conversations like when you're knocking on all those other doors, when you're texting these folks all over again, you're calling these folks all over again? And it's like, and they go, yeah, Mauricio, good to talk to you. What's going on at J? And you're like, no, it's different now. What's it like to be a part of something when you're having these conversations with a startup?
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a little bit of that explaining the transition a little bit. Everyone knows me as Coach Mauricio, Coach Ruiz in town, and that's okay. I mean, there's a point of probably of respect that I've really appreciated that. But just to be able to have those conversations and that open door communication with a lot of folks in town that we've been able to develop relationships, whether from a recruiting standpoint or just supporting the youth landscape that we've had here in the First Coast. There's a lot of strength here in the First Coast. There are a lot of really good people doing a lot of good things already. And then there are a lot of fans. I mean, they love football here in North Florida. So it's kind of easy, to be honest with you. There's really not a whole lot of convincing. I think everybody ultimately wants to see top level professional soccer here in our city. So the excitement is there. There's been a built-in relationship. So it just really feels like if I'm talking to a group of five or a one-on-one conversation, as we do some town hall meetings in some of the local breweries that we've been doing just to introduce the project. There's a room of 15 to 20, anywhere to 30 people, but they just feel like we're in a group, we're in a room of friends just talking about where we are and the excitement that we're bringing to the table. There are a lot of things that people want to know that we just don't quite have the answers exactly how they want to hear it. So we're trying to not be overly commit to any one subject just yet, but we can give the gist of what we are doing. And once we have more answers in regards to what is the team going to be called, where are you going to be playing, what are the colors like, things that we're talking about on a daily basis and exciting for us, as a leadership group, the public wants to know. And we can't quite give those answers just yet because honestly, they're just not finalized. And so I think the conversation will continue to evolve from that point, but it's really exciting to just be sitting across a group of soccer enthusiasts and soccer professionals that we have in the city.
How has the sport grown from a participation standpoint since you've been there? And I'm talking both on the youth level, the everything from the elementary school age, the U8, U9, U10, all the way up through the colleges with your time that you spent at JU. How has the footprint expanded and grown since you've been there to watch it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think where I've seen the biggest growth is in that young adult, where they grew up with soccer and now they're having kids and their kids are playing soccer. And so that the multi-generational soccer explosion, I think it's really happening in the First Coast. My background, I came originally from Brazil and then I moved to Orlando, which is really, highly Latin European dense population. So I've seen that process in Orlando happen several years ago where, parents and kids were, young and older were into the fabric of soccer. And that's where I've seen in my 9 years in Jacksonville, a lot of people that are now in their late 20s, early 30s, and they're having kids and they're 5 and 6 and 7 years old. Their kids are now playing and it's starting to complete the cycle a little bit where grandpa, parent and child are also, they're out on the soccer field. So that just speaks to the number of soccer families that we have in town and the growth of the game. And the local soccer leagues that I try to shamelessly try to hold on to and play a little bit, they're growing, they're bigger, they're more competitive all the time. And then when you go out to any of the local parks on the weekends, they're packed. They're just filled with soccer players, and the clubs here locally are doing a great job. They're booming, whether it's Clay County, Florida League, or GFC, Pine Sports, and some of the other kind of more peripheral clubs in the region. They're bigger. They're getting bigger all the time. So that's really exciting for us to come in with this pro product and know that there's already a great work being done on the grassroots, and now it's for us to kind of try to connect all of that.
And it's not just on the boys and the young men's side, it's on the young girls side, on the women's side as well, where it literally, they're depending on the market and who we're talking to, it is just astronomical. The curve, especially in women's soccer, is just going through the roof these days.
Yeah, and we didn't want to miss on that. I think that's something that our leadership group and ownership group were very keen when they're talking to the USL, that they wanted to get an opportunity to bring in the USL Women Pro League, which is going to be launching in 2024. I think in the next couple of weeks to months, we're going to hear a lot of exciting news and releases from the USL in regarding to the Super League that they've already announced the Super League. Not the matter of teams and when those teams will be launching. And we wanted to be a part of that momentum. You see the Women's World Cup coming up this year as well. and just the interest that is generating from women's sports in general. And I think finally investors are starting to see that as well, right? It's not just something that, for women to play, but now it's actually an opportunity to do business with and to invest in. So it was really keen and perceptive of our ownership group that when we decided to bring in USL Championship, part of that deal is that we had the opportunity to also help launch the Super League on the women's side, because North Florida traditionally is actually better known from a talent standpoint with our young ladies. We have more young ladies playing at a higher level than the men. Now, I think the men are starting to catch up, and I think the level is starting to be comparable. But we're a hotbed for women's soccer here. And we have more young ladies going to top level colleges, some of the brand name colleges on the women's side, than even on the boys. So it's an opportunity for those young ladies to play at home and be given the opportunity to do that in a few years.
And at the same time, there in First Coast, you're jumping into immediate rivalries. It's almost like the spoke in a wheel where you go down a couple of freeways. You've got Tampa Bay that's already a part of it. You go up to Savannah and you hang a left about 45 minutes. You've got South Georgia Tormenta and what they've done on the women's side, winning a USLW championship and winning in USL League One. You've got Charleston if you work your way up the coast a little more. So the rivalries that you're looking at in both USL Championship and in USLW, they can already be there for you as you hit the ground running. And I think that, once again, I think that plays into what the USL has been trying to do, is get all this regionalization together, and you're right there in the middle of all of it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the map, and you look at the largest cities in the South, Jacksonville was a massive hole that were just missing a high-level pro team. So, obviously with the USL Championship team, Jacksonville on the men's side will have a top-level pro team. But on the women, the exciting part of it is that we're going to bring the first pro women's sports to Jacksonville. There are no other women's pro sports to Jacksonville. So from a city standpoint and from a buy-in, we're not really just going to be pulling on the soccer community to come watch games, but really just in general on the bigger population that want to watch pro sports. And that might be an introduction for future women pro teams to come into the market as well. But to speak to your competition and rivalry standpoint, I mean, even if you look at the U.S. Open Cup and kind of how we settle there in the middle between Atlanta United, Charlotte FC, and obviously Orlando, Inter Miami, and then you get the Rowdy. You have there's so many components in our region, and I think we just fulfilled that gap that was missing in there.
Mauricio Ruiz hanging out with us for another couple of minutes here on a Soccer Down Here 1v1, breaking down USL Jax and his part in it now that he is involved in Jacksonville's efforts in USL Championship and in USLW as well in the Super League as it comes to the fore. Offices have philosophies and approaches to how they want to conduct business. How would you describe the overall philosophy of your front office and what you want to accomplish when it comes to not just on the field, but off the field, the business world, advancing everything, the knowledge of the game, all these kinds of things? How would you look at the philosophy of the business, and how would you describe what USL in Jacksonville and the championship and the Super League means? How would you break that down?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the one word that's consistent with what we talk about is community. And I know that's easier to say, and I think everyone ultimately wants community as part of one of their pillars. But if you look at our ownership group, they're all community-based owners. All of our founding and our partners here are active partners between Steve Livingston and Tony Allegretti, the guys that are actually on the ground working day in and day out. They're Jacksonville guys. They're here native. They've been here for over 25 years. And then if you look at our ownership between Ricky Kaplan and then, a guy that we might know here in the South, Tim Tebow, he's one of our owners as well. And so if you look at, how we want to bring the team into the community, it speaks volumes that our ownership is a community ownership, and they really want to bring the opportunity to our young people here to develop and eventually play on the first team or have the extra level of entertainment. So that's something that we're going on to the community, and especially when you talk about the youth soccer community, I think that's going to be challenge on its own, because as you know about youth soccer, in America, it can be a little bit separated and divisive. We want to be the UN, if you would, right? We want to make sure that we all come together. We don't have to agree on everything, but ultimately we have a higher purpose, which is to bring high-level soccer to our community and to our area. And how we do that will be by joining forces and holding hands. But we don't want to disrupt the market either. We want to make sure that we're supporting people in their efforts and what they're doing, and just want to create pathways for our young people to have the opportunity to fulfill their dreams. So we want to inspire that. We want to be an inspiration within the community. And the partnerships that we're looking for from a business standpoint, we're first and foremost looking for those big companies that are headquartered here in Jacksonville. I think that's going to be huge, that they want to invest into their city as well. When we're talking to the county, we're talking to the city, that's a really big sell that we're trying to push.
A lot of us have those to-do lists, and now that you are a part of it, it could be on a phone. You pull out your stylus on the phone, you sit there and you write something down, you pile it, you jam the stylus back in your phone, you put your phone down. Could be on a legal pad, you've got ideas, you sit there and you write them down. Could be on one of those boards that you have on your fridge. And, 2:00 in the morning, you're going down to get some water. Oh, I've got an idea. You write it down on that board on the fridge. You put the dry erase marker back away. You go back to bed and you look at what you wrote in the morning. It's like, what was that? Or it could be on like those big 6x8 boards, the big dry erase boards where you've got a lot of ideas and arrows that go from one place to another. Where are your notes now that you were a part of things? And what do you think the next thing you can cross off of your list is?
Yeah, so I'm a tech guy. I'm a computer guy. So when it comes to notes and reading, I'm a paper guy. I gotta have my notebook. We're on our phones all day long. And the last thing that I'm gonna do is look at my phone for what to do. That's more of a distraction. So I definitely have the notepad next to me, and it keeps me in check because that's something I need to carry all the time. We have a lot of things to accomplish here in this for a while, in the next six months, if you would. If you look at quarter one and quarter two, we have a lot of things to accomplish, primarily as a club, finalizing our location. Right, our ownership and our leadership group have been working tirelessly with the city, both in St. Johns County and Duval County, to try to find that ideal centralized stadium location. So our project does include a 12,000 seat capacity, 15,000 overall capacity facility. That's going to be soccer specific, but multi-use for other venues, for other events throughout the year as well. But that area where we place that stadium is going to be crucial to everything we do from that point on. Even the brand and the name of the team has to represent a little bit of that. It's not exclusive to that location. It'll really come to represent the entire city and how we display our brand and our colors. But that location really kind of kickstarts the conversation. It kickstarts the conversation with local partners. It kickstarts the conversation with our youth development, future facilities that we want to build. So that's probably the number one thing that we need to cross off our board is finalizing. We have some really good prospects on the line now. I think our group is really down to the last 3 or 4, just kind of looking at all that it entails to finalize that. Hopefully by quarter 3, we have a final answer on what that looks like, so we can get started. Because on our timeline to kick off in 2025, we really need to get started by quarter 3 with that finalization. Probably what will come before that, and that's a huge item on our line as well, probably midsummer, in between quarter 2 and quarter 3, is the name brand. I think that's probably going to be as exciting because that's something that we can wear, something we can represent, and we can sell to our community. But those are the 2 really big items on our list that we're working on every single day. We're talking about diligently, but we want to get it right. We don't want to just throw something out there that we know that we rush to. So we want to get it right because I think this is a big deal for our community, and I think we owe them that.
Mauricio Ruiz, part of JAX USL, JAX, JAXUSL.com, part of the fabric there in the First Coast. Thanks for hanging out with us for a Soccer Down Here 1v1. We'll be keeping an eye as you guys are getting ready to kick off in 2025. Thanks for hanging out with us for a 1v1. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you having us.